guys, how's it going? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band reviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. I'll be posting live sets of both Andreas' set and Royal Coda, so definitely be on the lookout for that. As well as I'll be posting album reviews of Beartooth's new record, as well as Hail the Sun's new record, so definitely be on the lookout for those later in the week. I also posted an awesome interview with Rome Hero Foxes, so check that band out. I'll be posting one with Deeply Woven in a New Jersey, Philadelphia band, so check them out. And then lastly, I'll be posting an interview with Windrunner on Friday. They are a Vietnamese metalcore band, and they are awesome, so all those bands are sick. Go check those guys out. Also, I started a podcast with Bailey from Chasing Utopia. Those air on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Ton of awesome stuff. Definitely check our Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff for all the new and latest things to come out. But tonight, we're going to be talking about Tilian's new solo record, The Skeptic.
Always thought that you'd come back, but I guess I got cocky. I got a little too cocky. Had you wrapped around my finger.
Huge thanks to Natalie over at Rise Records for sending this over a little bit early. Unfortunately, we weren't able to line up an interview, but maybe next time, Tilian, I'd love to do one. But I've been a big fan of Tilian for a very long time. I've followed him since Tides of Man. Dream House is one of my favorite records of all time. I love that record to death, and it's one of those records that got me into playing guitar, so I owe that a lot to that. But I've been following a lot of his solo material as well. He's been releasing it in between a lot of his DGD work, for those of you who aren't familiar with that band, Dance Gavin Dance. But he's released the first record that he released was in 2013, which was Material Me. He released a follow-up to that, Future Friends, in 2014, and then a follow-up to that in 2015 with Perfect Enemy, and then last year he released a EP called Patient. So he's definitely on the roll with all that sort of stuff, as well as doing the Dance Gavin Dance stuff, so this guy never takes a break. Also, he did a phenomenal solo tour, which was really awesome. It was good to see him do a Tides of Man track, which, by the way, was amazing. Didn't get a video of it, but I'm sure you can find it on the internet. But a lot of his solo stuff, which was really cool, and it's definitely a different flavor in terms of what you would typically see from him from Dance Gavin Dance. But I'm going to get back into this record, The Skeptic. I'm going to go through each track, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons that I think are on the record, and then finish it out with an overall rating. So the first track is called Made of Plastic. Really liking this sort of basicness of this track. It has an awesome drum and bass line that I feel like have more of a pronounced role in this song. There really isn't too much backing it up, excluding maybe the electronic parts here and there, a little bit of guitar, and mostly Tilian's vocals. But I just like, speaking about his vocals, I really like how he just kind of glistens and glides over the track. I've always liked his voice. Obviously in some different bands prior to Dance Gavin Dance, Tides of Man, but I've always felt that his voice has always had this interesting tonality to it, and I think this obviously speaks volumes in this track. It has a fun pop sort of overtone to it, and the song really hits its stride once the guitars and sort of electronics come in a little bit later on in the track. I like that the chorus is really just fun, energetic, and is probably my favorite part of the song in general, and really ties a lot of the sort of elements in the verses and the bridge into the main track. I think melodically it's really a more ethereally based track, and I think it's a unique start to start off the record with. So we're gonna move into track number 2, which is Cocky. This one is the first single that he released, and he released a music video with that one as well. It's one of my favorite tracks. I knew as soon as I started listening to it, it was one of my favorites. It has this awesome swinging groove to it, really digging the sort of four-fronted guitar riff that plays throughout most of, if not the entire track. The vocal layering is really cool, adds a lot of space to Tilian's vocals, which you don't really get to hear too much in maybe DGD tracks, because obviously you have John Mess, but I love the layering in this. I think it works very well. His vocal runs are super infectious as well, and I think that he doesn't go too overboard. He knows where to kind of fit in those sort of poppier sort of riffs, but at the same time he knows when to have that sort of little accentuation in the song, and I think that's what really makes it that he just doesn't go nuts and he lets the song speak for itself, but not not sacrificing on what he does either. So we're gonna move into track number 3, which is Gone. This is another favorite of mine as well. The guitar work in this track is super underrated. I felt like every time I was listening through to this record, I really came back to this and I really enjoyed the guitar work a lot. I think that sort of tappy riff towards the end of the track, I'd say about the second half of the track actually, really just kind of makes this sort of interesting sort of like pop track really unique and interesting, and I just love the guitar work in this. I think it is the highlight of the track for sure. It has this really cool smooth groove to it, and I like that this one utilizes more of Tilian's lower range, which you don't get to really hear too often. There are some tracks that he did in DGD where he has that. There are some tracks in Tides of Man that he did that previously as well. But I like that in contrast to the sort of punchier, a little bit more forward-facing choruses. I think it really works with the sort of the balance of this track, and I think that, speaking about balance, I think that it also just kind of finds that middle ground between the mellowness that Tilian brings, but also that sort of poppiness that you would expect from a more pop-focused artist. So we're going to move into track number 4, which is Handsome Garbage. This one is by far one of my favorite tracks. I think it harkens back to a lot of older DGD stuff, as well as a little bit of Tides of Man here and there as well. I think that this one has more of the pop, less of the pop tag that I've been throwing out a lot in this review, but I think it really works with obviously him being in Dance Gavin Dance, but also kind of taking that sort of knowledge and bringing it into his spectrum and his style of music, and that's probably why I like it a lot, because it has more of that sort of vibe to it, especially in the bridge. I'd say that one is definitely hands down, it feels like a Dance Gavin Dance bridge, which is nuts, and obviously not surprising, but it's just really good. I think that the electronics don't really take up too much space, but they are a nice addition to the track. It doesn't have that sort of traditional pop vibe to it, but overall I think it really speaks to that sort of pop flair, but also really, if you are a fan of DGD, you'll really like this track as well. So we're going to move into track number 5, which is Hold On. This one is the most recent single, actually not the most recent single, this is the second single that he released, and it's one of my favorites as well. I don't think that I was sold on it at first just listening to the track by itself, but I think it really fits in the whole scheme of the record. It has that sort of radio friendliness to it that I feel like, you could hear it on probably one of my local radio stations. It would just fit super nicely. It's a little bit of a slower track. It doesn't have a ton of flair to it, but I think what it makes up in flair is that it has great songwriting, it has awesome structure, and you can hear a lot of the emotions that entail with Talian singing on this track. I think it really works. It adds that personal touch that, I think that's what makes a track, and what makes you fall in love with tracks is that these sort of personal moments, and you can really hear that a lot and spoken a lot in this track, which is definitely nice. And again, I feel like it fits more so in the record as more or less a standalone track. So we're gonna move into track number 6, which is Blame It on the Rock and Roll. This one threw me for a loop, and it still throws me for a loop, but is one of my favorite tracks off this record as well. The guitar work is definitely probably the most unique part of the song, and just the kind of tempo that it has kind of more of a like big band kind of swing style to it, which is really cool, and just an era of music that I feel like goes under the radar. Another band that I can think of that kind of does that sort of stuff is Panic at the Disco, which is really cool, and I like that he kind of evoked that sort of sound, but also stayed true to that sort of pop vibe and kind of groove to it. So it's kind of an amalgamation of those two things, but it really works. The bridge definitely is the wild card. It just has this awesome fluid transition that really makes the track works super well. It has that Tides of Man sort of riffage sort of to it, which is really unique. Maybe I was the only one to kind of figure that out. I don't know. Once you listen to it, you probably could discern that. But I definitely feel like this was a song that I wasn't expecting to like at all, but as the more I listen to it, the more I start to fall in love with this. It just has this uniqueness that separates it from the rest of the track. It is over the halfway mark in the record, and I think it really brings a lot of fresh air and a lot of refreshing qualities to this album so far. So I definitely appreciate this track a lot, and I think it is by far the go-to track off this record when it comes out. So we're going to move into track number 7, which is Let Her Go. This track feels like more of a modern pop track, obviously bass heavy and bass driven track, which is obviously, if you listen to like a lot of modern top 40s pop, you can definitely get that sort of vibe to it. The electronics definitely inspired, along with the sort of drops and everything of that is invoking modern pop music. It has more of an etherealness than what I would expect. It has a lot more delay and sort of echoing that you can hear a lot in Tilian's vocals. I think that it is a solid song. I think it is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I do like sort of pop artists, but I felt like this one definitely catered more towards those fans that aren't really too much of a Tilian fan or don't know of his music. I think that this is definitely one of those songs that I like. I think it is a solid song, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. So we're going to move into track number 8, which is Drunken Conversations. Continuing on with the sort of top 40s modern pop influence. This one also has that sort of vibe to it. I think even more so. It's a little bit better than I think Let Her Go. I think the groove is a little bit more recognizable, and I also feel like there's just a little bit more uniqueness to it. The vocal layering in this track is really cool as well, and I also like the sort of glitchy sort of effects that he put on his vocals in that kind of more accentuated vocal parts. But overall, much like Let Her Go, I wasn't really feeling this one either. If you are coming from that pop sphere, then you'll enjoy this one, much like you'll enjoy Let Her Go, but this isn't just my cup of tea at all. So we're going to move into track number 9, which is Right Side. This one I feel like is a step in a better direction. I feel like this song has more of a Tilian sort of vibe to it. It utilizes a little bit more real instruments, which is cool. I felt like just the electronic heaviness and electronic focus tracks really just don't work with the whole vibe of it. I think a lot of the reason why I liked his earlier work, like Material Me and Future Friends, was that he was able to kind of find that happy medium of both. And some of the tracks that I loved, I felt like found that happy medium of both. This one is definitely better. I think it caters more towards their singer, Tilian, of course, and this one is a bit slower in tempo, but I think he definitely gets to do a lot more with the space in terms of what's going on in the song. So we're gonna move into the last track number 10, which is Ghost Town. This is the most recent single, and it happens to be one of my favorites as well. I think much like Hold On, I feel like this one fits very well with the record and kind of closes it out in a nice way. I think it executes a lot of Tilian's best sounds in terms of the more sort of tracks that have more of the electronics, but also a lot that has to do with the real instrumentation that goes along with this track. I think it, again, finds that happy medium of both, and I think that's why I like this one a lot too. The electronics, while they are subtle, I think they really add a nice dimension. They add a nice layer to this track a lot, and I think that's what I love about that, is just that blend of both that really kind of accents what he's doing in that, but also accents what he does in terms of like what I enjoy and things of that nature. I also think that just the song is really executed super well. Tilian's vocals sound super solid on this one, and I think it really fits well with the cool instrumental vibes of this track, and I think it blends a lot of the best of both worlds in terms of this record. So some pros and cons. Pros, I thought it was very expansive. I felt like he definitely pulled more towards some of the more pop genre or pop focused tracks, but then you got tracks that have more of that big band feel, like Blame It on Rock and Roll, Handsome Garbage, that has kind of a throwback sort of DGD vibe to it. He has tracks that have more of that sentimental value to it. So I like that he's creative. I like that he's been thinking about different things and expanding upon his overall feel, because I think as an artist, you want to see them grow, you want to see them expand, and I felt like this one is definitely definitely on the lines of just expansiveness, and I can't see why he wouldn't kind of continue on with that sort of direction, but I definitely like it. There's some really catchy tracks off this record that I've really enjoyed. I still think Cocky is one of the best tracks off the record, along with Blame It on the Rock and Roll. I think those two, maybe along with Handsome Garbage, are my top 3 off the record. And it's cool to hear a different side of Tilian. If you aren't familiar with him doing solo work, then I feel like you should give this one a listen, because it does definitely kind of give you a full gambit of what he's done previously, and I think it really will show in the type of work that he does. This record isn't without its cons. I feel like there wasn't enough of a mix between real and electronics. I felt like there were some tracks that did it very well, and I thought there were some tracks that did it maybe a little bit too much, but overall I think it was really good. I think there is a nice mix, while I personally would like kind of more the real side of stuff, but still have that sort of pop sensibility. I could understand the direction that he wants to go into. There are some kind of cheesy tracks. I'd say 7 and 8, Let Her Go and Drunken Conversation, just felt a little bit cheesy to me, and they just really weren't kind of vibing with the rest of the record, in my personal opinion. But my overall rating for Tilian's The Skeptic, I'm going to be giving it a 9 out of 10. I think it's one you should check out if you are familiar with his solo work. I think you'll like it. I think it's kind of a good follow-up to Patient, but nothing too groundbreaking except for maybe the exclusion of a few tracks, but overall I like the sort of pop thing that he's been doing lately. It's been really cool, but it was also really cool to see how well he's been doing in Dance Gavin Dance, and just how busy he's been. It's been awesome, and it was cool to see him live as well. But let me know in the comments below what you've been thinking about the singles, what your thoughts are on the new record. If you agree with me, if you disagree, I'd love to know your opinions below. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to subscribe, hit that thumbs up. Tons of stuff coming out in the next couple weeks that I'm excited for you guys to look at, check out, and please go check out all the bands, check out the live sets when I post them, because they are super sick. So my name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com, and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.